Hello, this is Lisa LeRose here on Connect to Love on PRNFM, and I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Michael J. Russ, and I absolutely love the topic of conversation that Michael proposed for today, which is the subject of happiness. And I was just listening to one of my books, The Happiness Advantage, and there was something that really caught my eye, and it was that positive emotions are contagious. And I just fell in love with that because, Michael, you have a smile and a positive attitude that really is contagious. So I'm going to welcome you, and let's start this exploration. I mean, I couldn't think of any more contagion that I would love to be exposed to than your smile. So welcome.
Geez, I really appreciate it. I'm not the only one, though. There's just a lot of teeth, and lately they want to be giving me trouble, so that's just the way that goes. But it's lovely. Thank you so much for the comment. You are incredibly gracious, and you have, not only that, but you have a huge smile yourself. So it just runs. We connect, and it just causes both of us to smile and giggle and laugh and just enjoy life, which I think is really kind of fun. And I love these hours that we spend together because they help me open my mind to even wider than it already is, because I don't know everything. I'm just, a work in progress just like anybody else. So love it. Yeah, the art of being happy is what we were going to move today. And I'd like to hear from you, just because you finished the book. What's your takeaway? What's your takeaway from that our listeners can what's the move you think they can pick up on today and embrace?
Well, there's just so much in there, but one of the things that really blew my mind, I guess, was the fact that in a smile and in the facial features that we express to others, they truly are received by other people, and that scientists have found that we have in our brain these mirror neurons. They're really specialized nerve cells that sense and mimic the feelings and actions and physical sensations of another person. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, that's really the key. Like, you think about when you smile at a baby, right? And you start to make silly faces, and then you'll see the baby start to do that. But how powerful, we don't really truly embrace, I think, that our smile can make a difference. And that just by smiling at somebody, it exudes a positive energy that they receive and that they mimic. And one of the things that I found so fascinating, it was sort of similar to entrainment, that it didn't matter whether or not the other person was smiling, that if there was a positive social connection, there was actually a resonant field that they would build a rapport. And as that rapport would build, that other person that was with the happy person would actually elicit a change. And he went in to talk about, even on sports teams, how on a team, if you have one happy player, it can be contagious, and it can create an enthusiasm. And they may not be as skilled as players as perhaps the other team is, but it's because of their enthusiasm and that the energy that they create in that whole resonant field that makes a difference. And I really love that. I thought about, like building rapport when you make eye contact with somebody, how difficult that is for some people. But when you do, a lot of times when you connect that eye contact, you smile, right? It's a natural thing, and very rarely. I think that's sort of what the disadvantage of social media is. We don't get to really truly interact with those neurons and that energy that is being put out. It's actually having that physical connection. And I know that that's super important to you. And you came back from an amazing trip, and I'm sure that not only was your smile contagious on your travels down there, but the people that you met. And I'd love to hear a little bit of of what what your sort of thoughts are on smiling and positivity being contagious.
Well, first and foremost, it really starts when I go check in at the airport. Even before that, the person who takes us to the airport, I was driving around a couple of days in advance, and we were thinking about not leaving our car parked at the airport. We wanted to kind of get a ride, and we made a turn down a street, which we always turn down when we're going to my girlfriend's restaurants, and there was a van with lettering on the back about transportation, Suraman Transportation. I took a picture of it, and when I got home, I made a phone call, and I said, "Hey, we're going to the airport, and we'd like to book you to do it. Can you give us a price?" And he was kind of startled, and it all came together when he actually came and took us to the airport, picked us up, that he'd just come down from New York City, and we were his first ride. He just set up his business. Yeah, he just set up his business. He says, "I really didn't know what to charge me. I had to come back to you because I had to go do some research." He had just come back from getting the lettering put on the vehicle. That's where we kind of crossed paths with him. He was a Jamaican.
Talk about a point of attraction.
Yeah, he was a Jamaican man, very, very astute. He'd had several businesses, and his sister lived down here, and he moved down here, and he set up this business, transport. And it was really kind of cool. I think we overpaid him for the trip out. We had a great conversation, and I told him, I said, "Look," he says, "Yeah." He said, "I'm going to get my van detailed." I said, "Well, the guy across the street, I know him. I'll talk to him. I'll give him your number. You can connect with him." Turns out that he was there this morning at 8 a.m. getting his van completely detailed by this guy. And what's really fun is when you can make a connection with someone and then be of service to them. And it's a feeling it's electrifying. It's absolutely electrifying to find out that you helped someone else make a connection with someone that you know. And that you've been of service to them, you've helped them, they're new in town. We run into a lot of people who just moved here, and we hook them up with where to go, some of the best restaurants, some of the restaurants that are the healthiest. Hook them up across the bridge, over in some other places. We tell them the names of people to ask for, and the whole idea is to help them feel at home and have an experience that is really positive. You want that for people. You want that for people you don't even know. So it started out with the pickup, smiling, laughing, having a good time on the way to the airport. Get there, and there's always a person who checks you in. And for me, I always make sure that I approach them in my interaction with them with a very big smile, because a lot of people who travel don't smile. They are stressed out by the concept of traveling. For me, I'm like, hey, I'm happiest being on a plane, going somewhere.
Right.
I enjoy it, and I know you do too, and it's fun. It's the perception of it, and I always like to say that perceptions dictate how you feel, what you feel you're capable of, the other thoughts that you have surrounding the perception or what the event or what's happening that you're perceiving in a positive or negative way. So if you decide that travel is stressful, you've got to go somewhere, and you instill the perception that it's negative, that it's stressful, it's bad, something bad about it. That is the experience that's going to unfold for you. And I remember this always, that when you can shift someone's day. And I'll tell you another story in just a second about a woman that I met sitting next to in the Sky Club on the way back. But it starts at the beginning. And they smile, I smile back, I greet them, I say thank you, I'm so grateful for you helping us, and then move on. And then smile at the TSA guy. Smile and find something funny or witty to say about something that they've done. Just because they encounter people all day long who have a what you call it, who are resonating, whose resonant field is full of negativity. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine being in a job like that, in the service industry, be it restaurant, be it airport, TSA, whatever it may be, whether you're got a business cleaning someone's house or you're doing someone's yard, you're always picking up, you're always bombarded by other people's negativity because their state of being is out of whack. Mm-hmm. It's because of their negatively reacting to everything that's going on outside of them. Now, I can tell you that it's a whole trip. No matter where I am, who I meet, that is how I face it. Big smile, because you know what? Life is an adventure. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not something that you just have to live through. And this is the perception. My perception is life is an adventure, and it's what I make it.
You're absolutely right. You know, when you said that, it reminded me of Esther Hicks when she would get into an elevator and everybody would be very stoic. Do you know this story about her? And she got into the elevator and everybody's standing there with their own personal space around them and, you know, right. What floor, please? 1, 2, 4. And she said, lingerie, please. And everybody looked at her. And she said, and then everybody started to have fun with it. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I think exactly. I'll go to here. And it just took that one little bit of lightheartedness, that happiness, that joy that she was radiating from her heart to shift what was going on in that elevator.
Absolutely. And, I think that's an awesome. I'm going to use that. I don't know. Maybe I'm not going to say lingerie, but I'll say say something else. But it can't be weird. Lingerie, please. Yeah. But you're right. People in an elevator, and I spent a lot of time in elevators this past week. It's just part of being somewhere, moving, going from one place to another. Elevators are involved, or it could be lines, queues that you're standing in for. Those of you who live outside the United States, it's a queue, and it's fun. I love looking in front of me, the person in front of me, the person in back of me, and figuring out something to say to them about either what they're wearing or that they're there. It's easy when you're on mm-hmm. vacation because you can say, so how long have you been here? You know, where did you come from? What do you like about this place? How do you feel about being here? And mm-hmm. you strike up a conversation with people, and I did it all the time. And I'll tell you this little story about this. This woman was sitting. We were at the Sky Club getting ready to. We had an hour before we had to leave Los Angeles to get on the flight to Atlanta to come to Panama City. And it was about 9 o'clock in the morning, and there was a woman sitting next to us all by herself, and she actually reminded me. She looked like a correspondent that is on either 60 Minutes or some other program, news program. And mm-hmm. when I got up to kind of go do something, I stopped for a moment and I said, hey, you look very familiar, and the person you look like is a great correspondent, somebody that I've seen. And she goes, really? I said, yeah. She says, well, I'm not her. And I said, no, you're kidding me. And she goes, no, I'm not her. That's not me. I said, dang, you've got a doppelganger hanging around somewhere. And our conversation, my next, I didn't stumble over it and go, oh, excuse me, my mistake. I'll see you later and leave you alone. I said, so what do you do? And she said, I'm in HR. And she'll probably listen to this podcast at some particular point in time because I gave her my card. And I told her about this podcast and my own. So it's possible that she might actually listen to this particular episode. But she was such a lovely woman. She had a beautiful smile on her face, and she told me the company she worked for. And she said, "What's your podcast about?" And I kind of let her in on the main theme behind Life Moves and what Connect to Love is about. And it's always fun to connect with people. And she said something very beautiful to me before I got into the podcast. She says, you have made my day. And I said to her, that is my intent when I'm out and about. My motto, my mission in life is to leave people better than I found them. And she said, you know something? my gosh, I said that very same thing to my stepchildren just this weekend. Leave people in a better place than you found them. And I said, yeah, same thing. We're on the same page. And I appreciated her. I thanked her very much. The interesting thing is how most people are shy. We'll go back to the elevator situation. I'll walk into an elevator and I'll say something funny and make a funny quip about, if I'm in Vegas or in Biloxi, I will make a funny comment about, so who here took the casino's money? Because they got all the money.
That's a great line.
You know? Yeah. So and then everybody starts cracking up and laughing, and somebody will say, "Yeah, they got me." And it's just a little bit of levity. The elevator ride only lasts for like less than a minute, but it's fun to actually say that, and to it's easy to say when somebody's got luggage and they're leaving, and you're just going up to your room to say something just funny about their being there. I'm sorry, it's all over, And they're like, no, yeah, we got to get out of here. We got to go. We've been here, and it's just hilarious. But if you can put yourself in any situation in life, that is, to me, part of being happy is being in some way satisfying somebody else, being of service to somebody else, and bringing your levity, your positive emotions, your positive resonant field to them. And I don't think we can survive in life without that. And you had mentioned that social media doesn't allow that form of connection for a conversation, and that is the downside of social media. It is, and to become dependent upon it and think that it is a connection, a real connection, is a mistake that many people are making, be it at whatever age. I'm not going to judge, because I know some older people who are hooked on it, and I know some younger people who are hooked on it. And it's a shame. There's so many cool people out there, and there's so many cool connections to be made with people, and it's not about names and what they do and where they live. All that factual stuff doesn't really matter in life. What matters is you're making the connection, and you're taking your smile to them and having them return that smile to you. And you're connected for that brief moment, and then you're gone, and you're gone in different directions. That is to me the art of living a very happy and harmonious life.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. And I have a Instagram page for my dogs, for my rescue dogs, and it's interesting because with that, I really connect to these people's dogs, and one of these days there's a lot of them that I really hope that I have an opportunity to meet, because they're just so caring when something goes on with somebody else's pet, if they lose them or they're injured or whatever, and they're, asking for prayers. I see people really stepped up to the plate, but I completely agree. There's such a difference when you can actually connect with people live and in person, and celebrate somebody's birthday, or if you're at dinner and you see something. Last night we were out to dinner, and there was the gentleman. I haven't seen him in about a month, and he's the manager of the one restaurant, and he's such a nice man. And 2 months ago he was having some car trouble, and I said, how did everything go with your car? And he, smiling, and he said, I still don't have it back. He said, I gave this guy $4,000 to put a new engine in, and I still don't have my car back. And I said, but it was so interesting. He was smiling and happy, and he's like, I figured out, a way to get around it. And we had a lighthearted conversation, but it was nice to be remembered after 2 months of not seeing this gentleman, and he makes it a nice experience when we dine. And I think that's what, I look at synchronicities, right? And some people don't really understand that word, how things unfold, two seemingly unconnected events that happen and they seem to connect, and you go, wait a minute. And so what's been coming up for me as a synchronicity lately is Leonardo da Vinci. He seems to be popping up everywhere. And you may say, well, how is that? And, one of the quotes that he said was about learning to see, to realize that everything connects to everything else. And, he was really famous for writing upside down and backwards, and the things that he felt was really important. Mm-hmm. And, and so one of the people that I really, admire is a gentleman by the name of Robert Edward Grant, and he's a mathematician, really an amazing individual, sort of like a Renaissance man himself. And he was talking about a lot of the symbolism and the things that Leonardo put into his paintings and why he used geometries and things like that. But what it really made me think about was, something my brain can't really comprehend, but it made me think about imagination and creativity and really where we have this boundless potential, and that is connected to happiness, that when you are happy, you are more creative, which was one of the things that they found. You have a greater imagination. You perform better. You have, a lot of things that make you more efficient, and you can actually, I think, spot opportunities. So one of the ways that I know, we're coming into a season where in this part of the world we don't have as much sunlight. We're getting less and less sunlight. So some people, have seasonal affective disorder. So, you sort of have to look for ways to find yourself and make yourself happy. And one of those, I think, would be that I utilize is a gratitude journal. We've talked about this before. And I think that when you connect the little things that make you happy, and maybe that's one of your next journals, Michael, that you can come out with something related to happiness and gratitude, that connection. And I'd love for you, because you
got both.
You do actually, right? So when we have, so sometimes we have these blocks, and that was the other part of what, in that happiness. He said, you have to, there's the old adage, fake it till you make it. But really, he said, when you smile, it tricks the brain into believing that you're happy. So eventually those neurotransmitters and those chemicals are going to be released, and you actually do feel happier. And I think that you do rampages of appreciation where you start, even if it's a frustrating thing. For instance, that gentleman who hasn't gotten his car back and spent quite a deal of money to have the work done, and the mechanic basically said to him, well, can I buy your car from you? Which I said, well, I just said to him, I said, do you want your car back? And he said, well, yeah, I'd like my car back. And I said, well, you either need to, it was sort of an interesting thing. But he had a big smile on his face when he was talking about it. So it wasn't a horrible thing. He didn't go into, this horrible person is doing this to me. I mean, he said, I understand people go through hard times and he can't get the parts and whatnot. And I was amazed by his positive, happy attitude towards the whole thing. I thought, I need to model that. I need to embrace that. I'm gonna clock that as a something for me to even master.
He's an example. He's a positive example of how to embrace and respond to any form of event, especially those that might not be so pleasant, so to speak, which is incredibly important. It's the thing I say to people more often than anything else is that the way you respond to something really determines everything. It's going to ultimately determine how you feel. You want to feel better, respond differently to life, and it's not complicated. It's not rocket science. It's just something that you have to focus on. And going through life with intention and purpose is making sure that and being in control more than anything else, which you have a lot of, you have a masterful amount of control over how you feel. And what most people have a tendency to do is to let something outside of them dictate how they feel by responding to it in a way that validates something negative, the negative perception that they've created about it. this gentleman had two choices. He could have gotten upset because he paid $4,000 and didn't have his car back, or he could have done exactly what he did. That's a choice. Everybody has that choice. And I remember that and apply it to every moment. And to me, that is how I create the art of being happy. That's how I apply myself to be happy. And I told you this earlier, which is really kind of interesting, that art is an application or expression of a human skill. It's imagination. And what you're doing literally is you're expressing and applying human skill and imagination to create a feeling, to create a flow within you, a frequency, as it were, that is happiness, joy, love, compassion, empathy, kindness. All these things, these upper frequencies are there, and they are what you resonate to others when you come into contact with them. And your smile is the physicality, the physical expression of that. It's the one thing that kind of gets forgotten. We live in a world. It's funny because I was just in Los Angeles and I was talking to somebody, and they were talking about how people aren't necessarily so friendly here. People in the South are so friendly. Yeah, that's true. In big cities, there isn't a lot of space for people. The density is a lot of density in big cities, and so my view of this whole thing is that that people crave. They walk on the street and they want to create this whole boundary around them, this barrier, so that you won't see them, you won't talk to them, you won't say anything. Don't comment, don't do anything. This is my personal space, my personal time. I know it could be that way in New York City. You walk down the sidewalk and there's 15 other people walking. Somebody's walking their dog, another person's got their cat in their arms, other people's walking their dog, and they just want to be alone because they're not alone that much. And I see it completely differently. I see it from a perspective of each person has a story. Each person has feelings. Each person is due an awesome feeling in their day. A random act of kindness in some way can propel somebody from one perception to another. And it's kind of interesting, but that's what you come across. And I said that's really my view of things, is that people really they want their personal space because they don't have it. Offices are crowded, buses are crowded, subways are crowded, wherever they are, it's crowded. Shopping's crowded. You're bumping shoulders with somebody all the time. And it's easy to get jaded, to become jaded when you may be a bit tired or a bit out of sorts, or you've encountered something and you're out and you need to get something. Maybe you forgot a gift for somebody. Now you're rushing to get it done. And it's easy to forget that the person you're getting the gift from is also a human being. They're a human soul. And the people you encounter along the way, the taxi driver, if you have to take a taxi, or an Uber driver. And in my view, there's never a reason at all in this world to be rude. We are all one. We are one soul. And that concept gets lost in the mix. It gets lost in the mix. We're all one soul. We're all here together living this illusionary life in order to elevate ourselves, to eventually ascend to a different level as a soul. That's what we're here for, in my view. And every day, the interaction with the outside world, and by the way, I work out of my office. I'm home all day. I just went to the store, and I had my opportunity to smile and be friendly and kind and in a very sincere, compassionate, and empathetic way, understanding that the people at the checkout line, what they have to deal with is crazy sometimes. And I really applaud people who have big smiles, and the young men and women who work in there, when they have a smile and they approach me, how are you? How's your day? And I basically look at their name badge, and I call them by name and say, Darcy, it's awesome. It's really, really amazing. I hope yours is too. Give them a big smile, and make it a pleasant experience. Make the interaction a pleasant experience. If we could just remember to do one thing, let's make every interaction with other human souls a positive thing. Do our best. Let's make that the art of our living, is to with purpose and intention, make during our daily connections, to make it a good connection with someone else that we come across. And it's not about whether they're going to be our best friend. It's just, you never know. They might become your best friend. Serendipity, as you said. You never know why you're where you are, and it's possible. Why did I take a picture of that gentleman's van, transport van? And it's weird. That's serendipity. To me, that's the definition of serendipity. I have a thought. The thought becomes manifest. I take the picture. I call them. I meet somebody new, and I get to be of service to them. And I'm sure we'll get together for a dinner at some particular point down the line. He's a very nice man.
That's really. I think I really love what you're saying about painting. Painting the canvas of your life. Really. You have this blank canvas, and every day you have that opportunity. And you lead by example. So, and I think no matter who you are, when you say, like, what do you want to be? I want to be happy. What do you want to do? Well, I want to do something that makes me happy. What lifestyle would you want to have? Well, I want to have a lifestyle with things that make me happy, surround myself, and it all boils down to that, and it's that connection, and it's those, whatever desires and goals that you have, whatever your beliefs and thoughts are, you can channel that in and make space. And then, so what are you going to put on your canvas today? Well, I love bright colors. Now, in my world, so this is a secret confession, right?
Okay. I'm listening. I
love wacky hats. I like old vintage hats, and they make me happy. Cool. I put them on, and I have this one, it looks like a Mad Hatter. I saw it in this little shop, and I put it on. It's the most ridiculous hat you've ever seen, and I love it. It's polka dotted, black and white, and I absolutely love it. It is the biggest hat. Like I said, I'll have to take a picture of it, but I have these,
Please, I want to see that.
Big brims and whatnot, so I'm curious, Michael, what do you have that is a
I knew you'd go there.
You enjoy?
I knew you were going there. I knew it. I knew you'd want to do that. Now I've got to think about it.
Oh, you don't have to. I'll just grab some more of my
interestingly enough, I had my a couple of things. I'm in love with convertibles. And I've had one that's now going on 20. It's 20 years old. I've had it for 17 years. But let's see. I have the colors done by a gentleman up out of Canada, and I love orange. Orange is one of my I don't know what you call it. It's one of my complementary colors, I think is what he called it. And I have a bright orange belt. I've got bright orange suede Italian loafers that I wear, moccasins. And when I wear those with a pair of black or gray or navy slacks, with no socks, put the belt on, and I can throw an orange shirt with it if I want to. That may be too much. I've always loved clothes, and I've always loved shoes. You like hats, I like clothes and shoes. I have shoes that I can still wear from 1983. Dress shoes. I have clothing. I buy decent quality clothing at a reasonable price. It lasts me for years. As a matter of fact, Sandy's dying to have me get rid of some. You're taking up too much of the closet, and I'm going to. Clothes to me have clothes and shoes. It's not just about going shopping and buying a bunch of stuff. I curate my wardrobe like I curate my own happiness. Like I tell people to curate their life, curate their existence, through their own imagination, and to kind of manifest into their life what they want most. I I like shoes. If I've got one more pair I really want to buy, but I'm not going to be able to buy until next spring because we're going into fall, and they're not the shoes that you would buy from fall. Although I live in a place that is very sunny, but I've got lots of shoes that I will never wear out. I do wear them all, except for maybe the alligator or the crocodile or the lizard loafers, because I don't dress up that much. However, I've gotten more into casual, but I like the orange shoes. I like orange shirts. I like anything orange. I'd put on an orange pair of glasses if I could find them. Orange pair of sunglasses. And, here's the interesting thing. When you said that, what I thought is that a lot of people are embarrassed to basically be themselves and express themselves and what they like in life. When they go out, they're embarrassed to be judged, and that is a shame. I mean, that's the elephant in the room. When you say, "Oh, I like pink," and or I like really goofy hats, then you're of the mind that you don't really care what other people say about you. What other people say about you is none of your business. None of your business is the term I use when people are sensitive about that and being judged. You have to get to a point in an understanding of yourself where what you do for you because it makes you feel good. You're not into trying to make other people feel good about you. You're not trying to get other people to judge you in a positive way, because that pretty much reflects that there's something deficient within you, that you don't feel good about yourself. I feel awesome about myself, and I really don't care what other people say or do. I love it. I love, I'll wear it. Boy, last time I wore that orange combination, I got more people. Wow, that is awesome. I get so many compliments.
Oh, I bet.
Even the comment like, "Oh, I would never do that, but it looks awesome on you." And I'm going, well, maybe red's your thing or pink's your thing. It doesn't really matter.
You're true.
The point is,
absolutely.
whatever makes you feel good about yourself and good about life. And it's not about that I go out and buy a pair of shoes every week because that thing makes that buying the concept of buying and having it in my closet makes me feel good. No, it's about, okay, I enjoy this thing. When I wear it, it resonates with me. It has the positive energy that I have, and that is the reason why I do it. And I take care of them. I don't beat things up. Someday I'll do a set of YouTube videos about how men can take care of their shoes, because that was one of my past lives, the shoe business.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, one of my past lives, I was a manager. I've actually worked for 3 shoe stores and managed one shoe store for a couple of years. And I learned every nuance there is to know about preserving a pair of dress shoes. Men or women, actually.
Well, it's shoes are an interesting thing. When I was younger, I used to wear lots of crazy high heels, and now I'm like you, Michael. I like comfort. It's so important for me, for my feet to feel good. And so when you put your orange shoes on, I bet your feet feel really good, and that's what makes you happy. That feeling.
They're very You're right. You're right about that. Although I can tell you, I've never had the experience of having to go from high heels to flats or something uncut. It perplexes me as to how and why people allow an entire industry to dictate what they wear, because and dictate that this thing will make you feel like $1 million, and it's so uncomfortable when you're
right.
You're doing it. It's one of those conundrums, and it happens in fashion. It happens in life and career, where people I know have decided to borrow lots of money to go get a degree in something that really wasn't what they wanted to do, and because they were forced to make decisions like on the spot. You turn 17, you got to figure out it. You got to tell somebody what you're planning to do with the rest of your life, That never made sense to me. You may not know what you're going to do. Heck, I didn't even know what I wanted to do with my life until I was 27. And that has been an ongoing process. I'm still there. There's something else I'm supposed to do. I've been doing something for 38 years, but and I've been writing books, and I've been podcasting, and I've been speaking, and being of service to people for, my gosh, 20 plus years, 22 years, and I still feel there's something else. There's always something else, and I'm always on the lookout for what that thing is. Although I think that everything that I've done up to this point, and this is the way life is, which is really interesting, is that everything we've done has given us a little something that is part of our life mission. It helps us develop some sort of skill that we can then adapt into our life mission. And we think that thing was, we go, I hated that thing I did. However, there's something you took from it. It's something.
I'm laughing.
Yeah.
Because
so what was yours?
I detested geometry. It was like freshman year of high school, and I was in geometry class because we had to do these proofs, and my mind could not wrap around having to it's like philosophy, writing out these proofs. But I am completely fascinated with mathematics now and geometry and sacred geometry and how things connect and how different things. There's certain mathematicians that I follow, and I admire their brains. My brain cannot envision things, but I've always been able to connect things. I'm maddeningly good at puzzles, because I already see it done. So I can pick up a piece. Somebody has a puzzle, I'll just walk up, and it's like it all comes together. And I'm just like, okay, that piece goes here, this goes here, this goes here. And maybe that was the problem that I had with geometry in high school, is because I had to physically write it out. I couldn't just embrace these amazing shapes and things. It didn't work for me. Maybe, I don't know, but it was very challenging for me.
That is
I'd
so
love to
cool.
hear your insights.
It's so cool because my take is that you're the macro. I do this. I consider things macro and micro. When I learn, I learn by the macro picture. It's kind of like I'll reverse engineer something. Give me the ending of what it's supposed to be. Don't tell me little step here, step there. Give me the big picture first, and then I'll understand how it all fits together. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that seems to be so. What you just described is that I like to see the big picture of geometry, and then I can figure out, and then I fall in love with the nuance of the journey of getting there. Right? That's it. And other people, they have to have the individual pieces because they don't feel really comfortable because they're not embracing the big picture. That's not the way that they learn. They learn by understanding the little nuances of the rules of this and the angles of that. And later on, when they want to build something, that's how they build it, by doing bottom up versus top down. I guess that's another way of saying it. I've always
you
been
articulated it so well. Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate
you're
that.
welcome. I mean, it's top down, bottom up. It's it's like, don't tell me to put this little brick here, and not tell me what we're building. I'm going, we're building a pyramid? Oh, that just gives me a whole different perspective on this. Now I can embrace what I'm doing and understand how it fits together with the whole thing, right? That's me. And unfortunately, a lot of teachers don't, and they're absolutely awesome. I love teachers. I think they're superheroes, and they ought to get paid more than sports stars, quite frankly, and movie actors and other people in whatever business where they're getting zillions of dollars. Teachers ought to get zillions of dollars, and because they've dedicated to a life of service, and I just love them. So if we have any teachers listening, I think it's absolutely awesome. I think you're superheroes and should be portrayed in Marvel Comics as superheroes, and because your strength and mentally and the ability to connect. However, one of the things that happens is that teachers don't have enough time to individually figure out how each person learns in a classroom. And because everybody does. Some people are dyslexic. I think Richard Branson said 20% of the world is dyslexic. He was dyslexic. And there are other people that I've known who've been dyslexic. And so, consequently, many visionaries evidently were dyslexic. And again, it's back to that macro-micro picture. They want you to learn, take the little individual pieces and learn these little individual rules. And if you know these rules, then you'll be able to create the macro picture, the big picture. And I'm like, no. Other way around. Give me the big picture. I'll know how the rules fit into the big picture. And that's just such a great way to see things. And I've always, and maybe that's why we get along so well, because we both see things the same way. It's a visionary process. And that's how I connect with people on that plateau, that framework as well. Interestingly enough, that is a way that you can connect with people by walking into a room and seeing the big picture of what the room is about. I can scan the room. I can see people's body language and see their facial expressions, pick up on the sensations, their resonant fields as I'm walking by them, and I can sense when someone's out of sorts. It's just, I know you can too. We all, I think, to some degree, have an empathic ability. We just have to let it out, let it go, free it from its box, so to speak, and allow it to become part of our lives and not just shut it down and say, I don't feel like dealing with that now, because I was thinking the other day that we're either aware that we are in control of our own life and destiny and mission and purpose and feelings and thoughts and all that kind of stuff, or we're not, and we're just being guided along this world by outside influences that don't have our best interests at heart, that don't understand us or our mission and what we're here to do, which could be diametrically opposed to where you are now. However, there is something again that you'll learn from everything else that will build, and it's like you're building your own little pyramid to the top in terms of achieving what you're supposed to achieve, and that's just kind of crazy. I will say at this particular point that there was a hurricane that wiped out a bunch of homes down in the central coast area, Gulf Coast area of Florida. And if anyone listening has or knows somebody down there, send them positive love and light. It's important to have a consciousness of people outside that is a helping consciousness, that from that perspective, sending positivity. And because there's a lot of negativity, it's easy to, when you lose something, some part of your home, it's a process. I've gone through it. And I know people here have gone through it when the hurricane hit here 4 years ago, and we're coming up on that anniversary, believe it or not, in 6 days. 4 years ago, 6 days from now, we got hit by a Cat 5, which pretty much shifted everybody's thinking. And I think a lot about it because at the time that it happened, I applied the same thing I apply in the rest of my life when there's no catastrophe or disaster or thing. It is an event that occurs. Why it happens to us isn't important. How it happened to us isn't so important. The fact that the actions that we take in any given moment after we experience something like that are what's important. It's important to take control of our own destiny, our own life, and those around us. Tell them that, and give them the power to take control of their life by focusing on what is doable, what they can control. It's so easy to fall into the hole of how or why this happened to me, and why did this hurricane come here, and why didn't somebody tell me early enough, and so I could make different decisions and whatever. You know what? all that goes by the wayside. It's a great lesson in being purposeful yourself and being positive and focusing on what you can control in every single moment. If you need gas, focus on getting gas. If you need water, focus on getting water. Be actively and purposefully moving yourself forward 1 foot at a time. 1 foot after the other. That's what's important in those circumstances. There's a lot to clean it. It's easy to get overwhelmed. And this goes for tornadoes, hurricanes, whatever it is, whatever the disaster is, or it could be just a relationship breakup. Focus on what you can control. And that's part of the art of being happy, is dealing with these things. How can you be happy in the middle of a hurricane? Gratitude, right? Gratitude. Forgive yourself for not having made, alternate choices that could have led to a different outcome. And be grateful that you are there and that you're around people who you love and love you. Be grateful that you have the ability to put 1 foot in front of the other and move forward in your life. And everything else is just going to fall into place when you embrace your own power and sovereignty to dictate your own feelings instead of allowing the overwhelming sense of not having control take over. I think you know what I'm talking about. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. It's a lesson for us who aren't there in understanding how to handle other aspects of our life, everything else in our life. And that is what I do every single time. Doesn't matter what the situation is. Part of the art of being happy is making sure that we're responding positively to everything that's going on. There's a choice. You have a choice about doing that. And
you have that control.
Yeah.
You have control
you have
over
to
your
exercise
mind.
it.
Yeah,
Right.
and one of the things that Sean Achor talked about in the Happiness Advantage, he called it the Zorro Circle, or the Circle of Control. So it's so interesting that you bring this up, Michael. And he said, when Zorro was training, they drew like a very small circle, and he was not allowed to get out of that circle until he mastered what was right in front of him. And then you drew another circle, and then, it kept expanding a little bit. So even in your day, take whatever is in that little circle and achieve it. And as you do, you can see that you reach that goal, then you can expand that circle and you can tackle the next thing. So whether it's cleaning up your possessions that got strewn around from the wind. I saw on one of the news things, this man, it was really a remarkable story. He was in his home, and it was starting to flood with water. He was on the phone with his daughter, and she said, get out. It was a first-floor apartment, and the only thing was just this little crack in the window. Did you see that? And he got out the window, and he clung to a palm tree for 3 hours until the water receded and he could walk, wade out through. And this man had had a hip replacement. I'm not sure how much before all of this occurred, but when his daughters found out that he was alive, I mean, I got really teary reading the whole story, and about that determination. And it would have been, even though at that point things looked really bleak, and he was holding on, he said he thought, this is how I'm going to drown. This is how I'm going to die. But he mastered that circle, and he was able to survive.
Yeah. It is in times like that. The lesson is, again, what could he control? He could sit there and succumb to the water rushing in and not make a move, not make a choice, or he could focus on what he could control, which was where he was. Stepped out, went through the crack, climbed a tree, and in those moments, having a hip replacement, that doesn't even come into being. That's not something you think about because your mind is so focused on protecting yourself. And it is rather true. It's you can allow yourself to be overwhelmed and overcome by anything, and that is it. To me, the skill of resilience begins with focusing on what you can control. And if you do that, you're going to be halfway there already, because you're going to be taking positive action that empowers you to continue to move forward. And yes, that Zorro Circle thing was kind of cool. Anybody who's seen a Zorro movie or any Zorro movie understands that that analogy. It's a great picture, by the way, and that's true. Yeah. You master what's close to you, and then you get that down, and then you move out. I think in other disciplines it works very much the same way.
Yeah, and I think that as you realize that you have an opportunity, you sort of spot more opportunities to be positive, more opportunities to be grateful, the more opportunities to share that sunshine and really change the day for somebody else. And it really is a blessing to be able to do that. And you do it, like you said, you gravitate towards those people who might be having more of a difficult day, and you offer them a smile or a little bit of kindness, and it changes that. And, we're so grateful that everybody joins us here each week on PRN-FM on Connect to Love, because one of the things that with this book that I realized when they talked about the Harvard Men's Study, the one achievement, and I'd love to talk about this maybe on the next show, when they asked these men that they followed throughout the 70-year study, what was their greatest achievement, and they said love. And that, it just made me smile, because here on Connect to Love, we hope that you feel the love from our hearts to you. And I would love, Michael, no pun intended, for you to share the last little bit of time with our audience here today.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's been a great show. Thank you for allowing me to go off on a diatribe or two about some really interesting aspects that I think, because the art of being happy encompasses a lot of different things. It's not so cut and dry, like you can just shoot an arrow to the middle of a target and you're happy. However, love is and should be your ultimate mission in life. And if we could just think and act from love, ask ourselves, what would love do now? How would love change this situation in life for me and for somebody else? Then it creates a paradigmatic shift in your entire life and the lives of others that you touch. And that's my message, to piggyback onto you.
Thank you. So look forward. Enjoy a beautiful and blessed week. You are magnificent.